Good morning everybody, welcome to another video. It's about 7:30 in the morning on the 8th of October today, and it's right parky as you can probably see from my breath. Been getting ice warnings on my car all the way here. Got here, there's frost on the grass. It's about 3 degrees, according to my car anyway. But I've come out down the River Wye, as you can see, to do a little bit of barbel fishing, and we'll probably catch some chub as well, which I don't have a problem with at all. Now, just put in a picture, the river's been about 1.5 meters up from normal. It's dropping back down, it's still about 0.5 meter up. Did fancy doing some trotting, but it looks right on the verge of trotting conditions. Height-wise and the flow-wise, you can probably see it's not a problem at all. Shan't be doing any wading today, certainly not for the moment anyway, unless we need to go on the road. I say we, and with my friend James, who's in the next peg up there, so we may see some of him during the day. But yeah, we might have a bit of a row, because I've never fished here before, never fished this particular part of the river, and we're just going by feel a little bit. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a bit of feeder fishing. We'll get the feeder out, I'll just get set up and I'll run you through exactly what I'm doing, and we may have a go trotting in a short while. Now, I'm not going to run you through the setup, I'll direct you to a video. I'll stick a link up there in the description below of my Barbel running ledger rig I've got set up on here. It's much easier to show you at home than it is on the bank here. Suffice to say, I've got a fluorocarbon hook link because there's no braid allowed. I'd like to prefer to use a coated braid hook link, but there's no braid allowed on these stretches, so we'll go with fluorocarbon. I've got my Free Spirit Barbel Tamer, 12 foot, 2¼ pound test curve. I've got the Avon top on it because there's still a bit of flow in here. I'm just going to suck it and see. I could change it over, put the quiver to section in if this is a little bit heavy. I've got my 1¾ rod as well, which I can use. But it looks about right for this. I think perhaps a 3-ounce feeder will probably do us. I haven't really do baits. I've got all sorts of everything. I've got meat, hemp. I've got my favourite barbel bait of Hotfish GLM boilies by Dynamite, glugging away in their own liquid. So I think what I'm going to do is start off, as I say, we'll start off on the feeder. I'm going to use one of these, where are they? These Guru gripper feeders. We'll use a 3-ounce Guru gripper feeder to start with, get some bait in. We'll give it perhaps an hour or so, maybe a couple of hours on the feeder, see if anything happens. We've got a very, very sunny day today. There's not a cloud in the sky, hence the frost last night. It's going to be very sunny. As you can see, the sun's coming up over there behind the tree. So I think it's going to be tricky going, even with this bit of colour that's in the water. But it's very much in between conditions, I think. If we're not doing any good, as I say, on the feeder, we'll switch over, we'll have a go at trotting. And if we're not doing any good on that, we'll have a move. Grain bait wise, I've got some Dynamite Big River shrimp and krill, nice and smelly, fish meal based ground bait. And let's say we'll suck it and see. I don't think anything other than at least a 3 ounce is going to hold in here. We'll pay out a bow of line as well, of course, to help the feeder hold bottom. Right, enough talk. Let's get casting. Is it?
I didn't realise, but there's actually a thing you can go and step out and like a tiny little croy. Right in front of me, you can step out onto.
Doesn't seem that deep either. Only about 6 foot, maybe 7 foot.
Well, yeah, I'll get on.
There is some flow on. Yeah, I chose the right rod, definitely. Well, we'll see, won't we? We'll see what happens. I say I would like to float fish, really.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, we're in. What's this?
chub.
I think so. Oh gosh, we haven't been in very long. I'm just trying to chat with James. I think we've got a chub on. I've had a few chubby clangs. I don't think he's fighting hard enough to be a barbel. But they put up a scrap in this flow. Blimey. God, blimey. chub. God, what a scrap. God. Blimey. What a scrap. Oh. Oh. We're off the mark. Well, that's a cracking fish to start with. It's about that in the morning. Sunshine. Wonderful stuff. What a scrap. All right, that was a good start. The sun's just peeking above the trees. I'm not sure what it'll do to the sport. But nice to get off the mark. First cast. At least you know there's some fish about, which is good. Well guys, I'm back at it. It's warming up. Although unfortunately the action's not warming up. James has had probably best part of an hour trotting with nothing at all apart from an otter in his swim. Just along here. So that's not going to help either. Came up a couple of times. What we've done is we've been for a bit of a walk up to the top of the stretch. We've not seen at the top of the stretch in these sort of conditions, and it's properly banging through there. Could probably fish it in waders and wading out, but by all accounts the fish push further down to this deeper stretch when it gets a bit colder, and it has been getting a lot colder lately. So we're going to have an hour or so on the feeder. James has gone on the feeder now. See what happens. There's another angler here, a bit further down from us, but I haven't seen it or heard him have anything yet. So it's looking like it could be a bit tricky. I'm sure it'll pick up later on. With a day like today, with no wind and a clear sky, frost last night, I think catching in the day might be a bit of a struggle. Well, I've got a bit of an update. Nothing's happened. Nothing at all. I'm getting the odd knock off chub. The very odd knock. James is not had a lot at all. I think we're really thinking now it's going to be later on this afternoon when we start to get some bites. The fish start perhaps moving. I think perhaps I dropped on that chub before the sun got up from behind the trees. I think it's just a bit too much clarity to this for this to fish all day. Certainly for it to fish all day in the bright sunshine that we've got today. Well, you know, Barbel love it when it starts to get a bit darker, don't they? So hopefully, as the light starts to fade this afternoon, we'll get onto a few fish. I may go for a bit of a wander this afternoon. I was toying with the idea of doing some trotting, but I just don't think there's the clarity in the water. That coupled with the fact, of course, that James has been doing it for a good hour and he hasn't had anything at all. And there we go, just done a little pluck there. And there's clearly some fish about. I think there's a lot of smaller fish about. And again, just little pulls and plucks. I've got a paste rat boilie on at the moment. They're just chewing away at the paste, I think. Just really waiting for that proper pull round. Well, there's really not a lot happening at the moment, so I'm going to keep ringing the changes. I've taken the groundbait feeder off. I put a block end feeder on now. I'm just going to fill it with particle. Try a worm on a hook again. I do think our lack of success so far is more down to the conditions really than what we're doing. But we'll keep at it. And hopefully we'll turn a corner. Nothing that swims that doesn't like a worm, is there? And so the sun's moved round behind us now. Getting a bit more shade on the water, so obviously the light stops will be going down on that area of the river anyway. Clutching the straws here, Honor. Just don't get the impression that there's particularly anything happening in the swim at the moment. You know, not getting any fish bumping into the line or the feeder being nudged or anything really. Just getting the odd pluck, which seems fairly chubby. That's only about one every sort of 20 minutes. It is just a little pluck. Well, I have got a bit of a bow line out, so I guess it's probably a bit more of a bite than I'm realising, but certainly not from big fish, and certainly not from barbel. But since then, I'd had a touch. James has tried to do some trotting. He's tried for an hour or so without even a bite. Oh, wow, there we go, guys. I was just leaving my friend a message on WhatsApp saying we hadn't had much action, and all of a sudden the rod went over. I think it's a chub. Certainly is. Well, a change of tactic and a change of fortune. Maybe coincidence? Who knows? Let's first bite for about 4 hours. Let's give him a second. But yeah, as I mentioned, I've changed over from a groundbait feeder to a feeder with particle in it, and I put a worm on. So look, let's get this fella unhooked. Oh, lovely fresh looking fish. Oh good, he's spat the hook out in the net, brilliant. Well, there we are, no monster, but very, very welcome. Day when bites are hard to come by. Fantastic. Right, let's get him back. Go. Got a few rattles. And I wonder what's going on. We've got, oh blimey, I think, don't know, is that a little rainbow trout? I'm not sure. Looks quite rainbowy. I'm not going to keep him out though. There's a little trout, I think. Might even be a salmon palm, not sure. I don't think so. But I had a couple of clangs and then nothing. That would explain it. So guys, a bit of an update. Had some lunch, it's early afternoon now. James has moved It's not doing any good in his new swim. He's still float fishing. I'm saying it's a little bit too coloured still, really, for float fishing, in my humble opinion. But I think it's good that we're both doing something different, so we can at least compare what we're doing. I've actually just had some lunch, gone back to the car and swapped rods. I've swapped over to my Dower Infinity 1.75 pound test curve rod, because the river is continuing to drop. It's not nearly as much pace as there was in here. I'm not sure if it'll come out on the camera, so I've swapped over to my Dower Infinity, as I say, Evo 12-foot barbel rod, 1.75 pound, and I've got a same reel here, but the 3000 model on here, just because it'll be a bit more sensitive, and as and when we catch some nicer fish, some big chub or some barbel, it should be a bit more fun playing them on this as well, being a bit lighter. I think perhaps from here on in things might get a bit better. I want to cut the chub, but couldn't get too much worse. Oh, it's proper hard going. I'm getting lots of bangs on these worms, but I've gone back on worm. I do think it's little fish. Just getting lots of taps. It's almost a gauge as well. If there's smaller fish here, then there's no reason why the bigger ones won't want to be there as well. I found a few weeks ago, last time I came down the Y, we found a stretch where fish just didn't seem to want to be there. So the fact that we've had a couple of chub and I'm getting lots of knocks I take that as a good sign. Hello. Oh, I've never been this close to a robin before. I don't know if I can turn it around, but I've got a robin about a foot from me over here. I know they're very friendly. I feel he's interested in a bit of worm. You want a bit of worm, mate? I'll sacrifice a worm's tail for you. How's about that? Nope. Where he is. Are you brave enough to have it out of my hand? I'm not that brave. Yeah. No, he's not that brave. Go on, you can have it. I ain't got any maggots, I'm afraid. Well, you don't want that bit of worm. You're a bit picky. Well, I've got a few bits and pieces in here. How's that? Is that any good for you? Yeah. Blimey. Very tame robin. That doesn't want a bit of worm, bizarrely. So guys, quick update. It's about 4:45 now. Nothing's happened all afternoon. Absolutely nothing. Well, no, I caught a tiny chub on worm. That's about the sum of things. Really? Rested the swim up, had a good hour or so off. To be honest, I would be on my toes and trying other swims. However, there's a guy that side of me about 75 metres away and he hasn't had anything. And James is about 150, 200 metres above me and he hasn't had anything. And he's fished 2 swims now. So I really do think that it's not location necessarily as much as time of day, really. Shame trotting wouldn't have produced today, and didn't for James. James has been trotting on and off all day. I haven't, but only because James is. To be honest, I'd have had a go had James not had a go, or had James not been here. But he's not had a single bite, and it does look that sort of river where it's just too coloured still. But you know what Barbel can be like. They just can ignore you and ignore you and ignore you, and if you're trotting, you can perhaps keep, by running that bait past them over and over again, you can perhaps get them to take, and I could have possibly caught a chub or two trotting today, but it's very difficult when the water's coloured like it is now. You nearly had me striking then, young man, or young lady, I'm not sure which. There's some more trotting swims upstream, but just with this amount of water on, the fish don't tend to be up there this time of year either. So it's been one of those today, I'm afraid. It's just been stuck behind a, I was going to say motionless quiver tip. It's not quite been motionless, but it's not been moving much, that's for sure. I'm getting a few more bites now as the day's wearing on. They all seem to be off little fish. I'm going out there just beyond the sort of boulders. I am getting lots of taps and rattles now on the tip, and clangs. I say lots. Every 5 or 10 minutes I get one. I'll put a worm on, it gets absolutely destroyed. I can't fish worm. Certainly not at the moment. Perhaps when it starts to get a bit darker I could. But at the moment, because I'm having to put a bow of line out to get out to where I'm fishing at the moment, it's not particularly sensitive. I'm putting a worm on, and within 5 minutes reeling back in, and there's very little of it left. And without really bites showing up on the tip. And clearly that's smaller fish as well, so I'm struggling to even fish worm, which I think would be quite good in these conditions. Well, clearly the little fish are mauling them. I put meat on now, a bit of a compromise between sort of worms and boilies, and I'm getting lots of taps. Got a tap again then. I'm filling the feeder up with meat and just capping it on each end to get a bit of bait going through the swim. Yeah, see, I'm getting lots of bites now. It's really lots of them drop backs like that, which you can't really tell whether it's a little fish or something decent, hence me striking. I'm going to change this feeder for a slightly smaller one. They seem to be on the meat though. I mean smaller in size, not in weight. I'll keep running some meat through the feeder. Not giving up, not giving up. Well, we are properly in last chance saloon now. The sun is just about to set, or will be in 10 minutes or so. And we shall have to depart shortly thereafter. We get lots of knocks and clangs and taps and rattles, but nothing definitive, nothing to strike at, so to speak. Just having a chat with James on the phone actually, because he's quite a long way away. Well, a couple of 100 metres away, too far to shout obviously. He's had a few rattles and taps, but Nothing proper either. It's a bit of a strange one. Bit of a puzzler. I've done the water temperature and it's about the same as it was a week and a half ago, 13.8. So this rain hasn't warmed it up like I thought it was going to have. I thought with this bit of extra water on we'd have done all right, but it's just a bit in betweeny at the moment. I'd preferred to perhaps have come yesterday or the day before, but James can only do weekends, so we wanted to come out together, and so it was today really. But yeah, we did think this bit of extra water would have done some good, but as I say, it's a bit in between. I think tomorrow or the next day would probably be good to do a bit of trotting. Certainly catch some chub that way, I'm sure. And I think yesterday or the day before would probably been better for barbel fishing. I'm getting all the excuses, am I? But that's the thing, when you set a date and you come out, you got to fish the conditions, haven't you? And I say I haven't even got the float rod out today. It didn't seem much point to me. And James did probably a couple of hours in the end on the float, and he hasn't done any good. It's just not clear enough. I'm surprised we haven't had more fish. Certainly a few more chub. Seems to be a lot of small fish around. I think perhaps bringing maggots would have perhaps been a good call, but with the amount of small fish there seems to be around, every time I put a worm on it gets absolutely mangled within 5 or 10 minutes. So I think, we just struggled with that as well. It's one of those, isn't it? Can't win them all. It's probably not very warm either. Clear sky again. It's going to be another cold one tonight, I think. But, there was a frost last night. You can't expect too much, can you, I suppose? Still, we've got about half an hour left, and I haven't blanked, at least. I got a chub. A couple of reasonable sized chub, anyway. A few bits and pieces. No, that's it. I'm going to call it a day at that, guys. It's lots of chubby clangs at the end there, but time to make a move, and it's getting a bit cold as well now, I have to say. Not a total washout, but it's certainly been tough going. We've been up against it, I think, with that frost we had this morning. It's made things very tough going, but yeah, it's definitely time to get out of here. River's just not been quite right, really. It's, as I said, I think I mentioned earlier, it's a bit too clear for getting bites in the day, and a bit too coloured to do any trotting. So it's been a struggle all round, really, but you can't win them all, can you? So on to the next. Now, I will be out again early next week, but for now, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. I caught a couple of chub at least. Tight lines. Enjoy your own angling. Many thanks to the channel patrons for your fantastic support, and I'll see you all again very soon.